Hi, I'm David.
I'm Mike,
It's September 1st and we're in the Oregon Dunes on the Pacific Ocean.
and this is Oxford in America.
Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Oxford in America. In our past episodes, we followed Oxford as she moved around the country between events and clubs, making her way from the East Coast to the West Coast of the United States. The journey so far has covered about 5,000 miles, or about 8,000 kilometers. It's mostly done on a trailer, and it took about 8 months to complete. Now, we're about to start a journey back east. For this part of the journey, Oxford will be driving, mostly on dirt roads, and we need to complete this in just over 30 days. Like all great expeditions, this requires a significant amount of preparation. Even more so when you consider that Oxford is a 65-year-old Land Rover. At this point, Oxford's waiting for us in Springfield, Oregon, with Ike Goss and the team at Pangolin 4x4, a Land Rover repair shop that is known for its expertise in Series 1 Land Rovers. The plan is to take a week and make the necessary repairs to begin our expedition. I met up with Mike McCaig near Richmond, Virginia. We started off under COVID conditions in a nearly empty Richmond airport. Our job was to take the almost 3,000-mile flight to Oregon and meet up with Oxford. We used one-way tickets, so we knew there'd be only one way home, driving Oxford.
I'm Mike McCaig. I'm excited to be part of the Oxford in America project. I'm going to be a co-pilot. I've been involved with Land Rovers for over 50 years. I'm past president of ROAV, and this is going to be a fun ride.
When we first arrived at Pangolin 4x4, we could see that the team had already gotten a pretty good start on repairs. They had developed a seemingly endless list of items that needed attention. Most of the repairs were from just general wear and tear from the previous trip from Singapore back to London. We also spent quite a bit of time on the ignition and timing and trying to get those things dialed in just right. We took a stab at the list of electrical repairs and made a few enhancements, like wiring up an isolated positive ground circuit for an accessory plug inside of Oxford that would allow us to charge our cell phones and run the refrigerator. The team also helped us getting Oxford Spotlight working again. But the majority of our time was spent on driveline issues like axles and brakes. Keeping it simple, we wanted to make sure we could make Oxford go and then stop again. One of the most challenging items on Oxford, being a 65-year-old Land Rover, was making sure we had the semi-floating axle bearings serviced and pressed on right. There are two main types of axle configurations. Most Series 2 Land Rovers and newer have what's called a full floating axle. Series 1 Land Rovers, like Oxford, have a semi-floating axle. So what's the difference and why is it important? That brings us to this episode's Oxford Repair Moment. A Series 2 or later Land Rover has a full floating axle that consists of an axle that lies inside the wheel hub and the road wheel bolts directly to the wheel hub. Using this configuration, the wheel hub rides on an inner and outer wheel bearing that in turn rides on an axle spindle. These hold the weight of the vehicle. The axle shaft is slotted into the end of the wheel hub using this outer flange, and only the axle is burdened with driving the road wheel. A failure of the axle simply means there's no more drive to the road wheel, and the weight of the vehicle remains on the wheel hub and spindle. A Series 1 Land Rover, like Oxford, has a semi-floating axle. Here, the axle has a flange integrated into it, and the wheel bolts directly to the axle. The axle rides on a single wheel bearing that is held together by a tightly fitted collar. The axle must hold both the weight of the vehicle and drive the road wheel. A failure in this axle configuration, or more precisely, if the wheel bearing collar comes loose, the entire axle slides out of the axle housing and the vehicle loses its road wheel. This is exactly what happened in 2019 on the last Overland, as the team was driving through Turkmenistan. We could still see the scars of that incident when we took Oxford apart in Oregon. Holding that axle in your hands gave us a feeling of a sort of connection to Oxford's past adventures. Repairing this in the field is no easy chore. Luckily for the last overland team, they were able to find a garage in Turkmenistan to help them. When this happened on the original trip back in 1955, the team resorted to brute force and banging the axles on rocks that fit the new wheel bearing collars. Luckily for us, Ike and the team at Penguin 4x4 specialize in Series 1 Land Rovers and have the exact tools, including this purpose-built press, to easily do the job right. We tidied up both rear axles with new wheel bearings and tightly pressed on collars and knew that we had one less thing to worry about for our journey. While we spent most of our time in Springfield working on Oxford, we were able to venture out and see some of the town and surrounding area. Our first stop in Springfield was our hotel for the week. With COVID having placed a damper on much of our fundraising efforts, the entire expedition had to be managed to a budget, and our hotel stay was no exception. Each morning, our hotel offered us a luxurious outside dining option, and
the hotel caught fire. That'll give you an idea of the hotel.
the hotel experienced a small fire in the laundry room, and that gave us all a little excitement, but it didn't do too much damage.
Fortunately, my bags weren't unpacked, so I could make a quick exit.
There you go.
Ah, the taco truck.
Yeah, we enjoyed a little local fare. Ike recommended this place to us, and anytime you're getting food from a beat-up RV on the side of the road, you're a little bit suspect, but it wasn't bad, was it?
No, it was a good burrito. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. One of the things that stands out in Springfield, Oregon, is their wall murals. Probably the most recognizable of these is the Simpson mural. While the television series is never quite clear on which Springfield the Simpsons live, Springfield, Oregon is happy to claim them as one of their own. In honor of the Simpsons, Mike and I treated ourselves to a stop at one of the local donut shops. Homer would have definitely approved. Once we got Oxford running a bit better, Ike took us out for some longer test drives into the surrounding forests. It was good to get out of the city for the afternoon and get a little dirt on the tires. Once we were done with all that, we spent the better part of an afternoon cleaning Oxford and test fitting all of our gear. We filled that truck up.
We did. It was packed to the ceiling.
All ready to go, we had time for one last stop at Penguin 4x4. This is an interesting shot that probably won't get recreated for quite a while, but an Oxford and Cambridge truck sitting together. The Cambridge truck is from the Trans-American expedition. Of course, the Oxford truck's from the Far Eastern expedition. So different expedition trucks. That's a Series 2 109 there.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
But that was this is a shot you probably won't see again for quite a while. An Oxford and Cambridge sitting next to each other. We really could not have made this trip without the all-hands-on-deck and can-do attitude of Ike and his whole team at Penguin 4x4. The expedition owes that team a huge thank you. In the end, we were pleased to get the Penguin 4x4 seal of approval. So after a week of triumphs and tragedies in the garage, we'd done all we could to get Oxford ready. It was time now to pack things up and get started on our adventure. To reach the start of our journey, we had to drive just short of 100 miles from the town of Springfield out to the coast in the Oregon Dunes National Recreation Area. Along the way, we saw the first of what was to become many forest fires.
It's kind of foretelling of things to come.
We made our first camp in the tree line of the Oregon coast. We set up our tents, cooked our first meal, and anxiously awaited the start of the next day. The next morning, we headed out to the beach to get our first real views of the Oregon coastline. This included the much-anticipated ceremonial dip of the tires in the Pacific Ocean.
See the Pacific, and this meant the trip was really starting.
And with all of our preparation and pageantry behind us, our trip had officially begun. Well, that's it for this episode. In our next episode, we'll drive across Oregon, seeing some of the sights and making our first crossing of a state line into California. Until then, we'll see you next time on Oxford in America.